Sawadee krap. I'm Rajeev Ranjan. I'm a consultant in Network for the Development of Agricultural Cooperative in Asia and the Pacific. Welcome to NEDAC videos. I present special videos on international workshops on aquaculture value chain organized by NEDAC in partnership with Asian Institute of Technology Bangkok in 2020. Our website is www.nedac.info. You can enjoy the videos on NEDAC official YouTube channel or on Facebook NEDACHO. Best wishes. Agenda, I would like to request Dr. Rajeev Ranjan, Federal Secretary, Department of Fisheries, under the Ministry of Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and Dairy from the Government of India to deliver the inaugural address. Dr. Rajeev, please.
Thank you. I'd like to begin by thanking Mr. Sandeep Kumar Nayak, Chairman NEDAC, for organizing this wonderful technical webinar on aquaculture and value chains, and for the participation from Mrs. Suchitra Durai, our ambassador in Thailand and permanent representative of India to UNESCAP, Mr. TPR Dora, who's moderating, Chairman of FISCOFED, of the key resource person, Professor Dr. K.R. Salin from Asian Institute of Technology, Mr. Boku Nakano, Cooperative Trade Japan, Mr. Dr. R.R. Singh from CP Foods, and other distinguished participants who are in this technical webinar. In the next 15 minutes or so, I would like to discuss a few things about what we are doing in India in terms of the great work that we think needs to be done in terms of realizing the potential that fishery sector is having. So I have a small presentation. So if that can be put on the, if it can be put there, that would be easy. We have shared the presentation, and can that be put on? Yeah. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah, it can be maybe a little minimized because it, yeah, that's fine. So maybe I just thought I will quickly run through some of them because it has a lot of information, and to the larger audience, it will be useful to know that the fishery sector is a sunrise sector for India, as it is for many parts of the world. And some key indicators I have put in here. It has been growing at a very impressive rate for the last 5 years. The fishery sector, and the aquaculture sector is included in that, is growing at 10.88%, and the growth rate of the fish production is at 7.53% for the last 5 years, and the exports have been growing at 9.71%. So if you look at it, India is the second largest aquaculture, the fish production is there, and the second largest aquaculture producer in the world. It has a 7.73% of global share of fish production. It is also the fourth largest seafood exporter in the world. And recognizing the potential, the government of India has created a new Department of Fisheries in last 1 year back. And after that, a new ministry in June 2019 has been created, because it has been realized by the political leadership under the Honorable Prime Minister of India that this is one sector which we need to champion, and it will be very, very useful in not only contributing to the national GVA, but also providing affordable source of rich animal protein for nutrition, income, and livelihood to large number of people in India. We have in India about 28 million livelihoods dependent on the fishery sector. And in our quest for looking at a 5 trillion economy, we feel that the fisheries sector is contributing in a big way. It contributes 1.2% to 4% of the national GVA and 7.28% of the agriculture GVA and almost 18% of the agriculture exports. So next slide, please. If you look at that, this is just what I had mentioned, that last 5 years, I said it has grown at 11%. So you can see that now we have, made all the investments, the right policies to ensure that's on a steady wicket and is growing very fast, both the fishery sector and the fish production also. Next, please. Next slide, please. This gives a snapshot of the exports. Now, as I said, that not only we are looking at production in a big way, about 150 lakh tons, 1.5 million tons of fish production. We are also looking at the exports in a big way. We are trying to double our exports. And we have currently 7 billion export trade, US $7 billion export trade, which is 4.35% of the global share. And we are the largest shrimp exporter currently. And this is growing at 8%, as I mentioned. And but it's still a small portion of the entire global export production of fish, value export of 164 billion. So as I said that we have to be part of the global value chain, which is what this seminar of this kind helps us to. And we wanted to increase our footprints, which I'll dwell on a little more detail. Next slide, please. Now, as I was mentioning that the Department of Fisheries at the federal level, which I work for, is responsible for development of fisheries aquaculture, and which is the primary responsibility of the state. So we work together, we supplement the efforts and complement the efforts of the states through policy support and financial support. And we want to do the promotion and development of fisheries and related activities. And also at the same time, a proper regulatory and fish stock, importation, quarantine, certification systems for properly managing the aquatic disease and health management system. And we also do cooperation with international organizations. Also look at infrastructure development, marketing, export promotion. So we look at all-round development and management of fisheries in the country with the aim of doubling the fishers and fish farmers worker. That is our current aim, and we are working towards it. Next, please. The resources that we have, India has a huge, both marine and inland resources for fisheries. This is just a snapshot of that. The length of the coastline is 8,000 plus kilometers. We have exclusive economic zone of more than 2 million square kilometers. And we have a large number, 1,547 fishing harbors and landing centers. And we have almost 3,500 coastal fishing villages. So we have a large population which is looking at it. We are harnessing 70% of our current potential in the marine sector, and 5 states of the country, Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Maharashtra, and Andhra Pradesh. They are the leading marine production states. Next, please. The next slide actually talks about the inland fisheries resources. Again, here we are actually only utilizing 50% of our capacity, of our potential. And if you look at it, we have huge resources in terms of large number of reservoirs. We have 3.15 million hectares under reservoirs. We have large wetlands, brackish water, ponds and tanks. So all this is an area we have given resource-wise, that is 42% of reservoirs, today contribute to inland fisheries. So the pie diagram gives that. Next, please. This talks about the policy support. We are now looking at responsible, sustainable, and equitable growth of the fisheries sector. And for that, not only that we are growing very at a high rate that we mentioned, we have a huge, diverse and vast resources. And we have, because we are a tropical country, multiple commercial species, and the huge skilled manpower, huge consumer base. So that is why we feel that with a strong technical backup and R&D and the proper policy support provided by the government in terms of the various policies that we have come, which I'll explain very quickly, some of them, which may be interest to some of the participants. Next, please. I mentioned about that because of a huge potential that we have, and we need to have also huge investments also, because the returns are very good in the sector. So in terms of investment opportunities in aquaculture, I just wanted to list down in terms of production and productivity. Our aim is to increase the production and productivity both, and for that we are investing in increasing the areas uh, under aquaculture, both in saline and brackish water areas, reservoir cage cultivation, mariculture cage cultivation. Ornamental fisheries, we are giving a lot of importance, bivalve farming, seaweed farming, and value addition. So we are basically looking at technology-based aquaculture. And also there is a huge potential to look at support services of brood banks, seed banks, hatcheries, uh, contract farming, and feed manufacturing. So these are big investment areas. I will go into a little more detail. Next slide, please. In terms of the investment opportunities in value chain, again we are looking at how the entire value chain can be improved further. So in handling centers at the harbor, fish landing centers, we wanted to do a public-private partnership mode. In cold chain, we already have, and we wanted to augment it. Ice plants, processing infrastructure, modern markets, value addition. So we are basically looking for higher scale of operations, improving livelihoods, and there are subsidiary units which are there, like the boat building yards, gear manufacturing, communications, devices, safety appliances, aquaria manufacturing, and so on and so forth. Next, please. Next slide. Yeah. So the large numbers in terms of what we are looking at. You see, currently we are about 150 lakh tons. That is 15 million tons of fish production. We are going to go to 22 million tons in the next 5 years. That's a large target to be achieved. But we are confident because of the past growth rates and the huge investments that we are putting in. And it helps because this is a big support for livelihood to a large number of people. So we are increasing the average annual growth of fish production to 9% by increasing productivity. Our current productivity levels are not very high. So that is why it is very easy for us to increase it more. And that is what, given the size and diversity in India, it is a challenge, and we are working towards it. Fisheries exports, we are looking at 1 lakh crores, that is doubling of the exports. Post-harvest losses we need to reduce. Currently they are at high levels of almost 20-25%. We have to half it to almost 10%. And employment generation is very large in the sector. So we are targeting almost more than 5 million employment generation in the next 5 years through a special scheme which I will mention, the Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana. Currently our per capita consumption of fish is quite low. It's just 5 to 6 kgs. We wanted to double it to 10 to 12 kgs, but still it will be much lower than the global, of 20 or 21 kgs. So that is why you can see there is a huge potential for growth of fisheries and aquaculture in the country. Next, please. This slide just talks about the potential and what we are doing. So the gap, if you see, is large in terms of marine. We are, as I had mentioned, we are doing almost 70-75%. In inland, we are just doing 55-60%. So both we have a huge scope for harnessing in a responsible and sustainable way the production levels. Next, please. I'll now talk about the investments that we are planning from the government side, particularly the total investments of a huge we are looking at $9 billion investments in the sector. And this is both from the center and states put together. We have a very excellent model of cooperative federalism in India. We have a large number of states and union territories. We all work together for the common goal of improving fishery sector. And center is planning $5.5 billion investments. This is primarily coming from three sources. The Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana, that's a very ambitious scheme launched just last month. And we have grounded it already. And this scheme, I'll cover a little more detail because it's a very interesting umbrella scheme. And we have currently a 2-year-old program, which is the Fisheries Infrastructure Fund, which is a $1 billion for critical gaps of fisheries infrastructure improvement. And we are also having a World Bank assisted strengthening of fisheries value chain, which is almost $2 billion program. So the center is putting in about 5 billion plus investments, and the states on their part are they will be putting more than $3 billion investments. So all this put together will be leveraged by the private sector, because the private sector is very dynamic in India, and they have done us proud in terms of what they have done in terms of exports, particularly in the shrimp sector. And it's a shining example of synergy and between the facilitative public policy and private sector investment. So we wanted this cooperation to grow further. And this is how we are looking at huge investments, unprecedented for a sector like fisheries. And this is what we are planning. Next, please. In terms of the development scheme I mentioned, we had the Blue Revolution in the last 5 years going, where we had investment 3,000 crores. And it has reached a level, and now we are going to the next phase, which is the Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana. Next, please. So all these will ensure that we have a very, very responsible and harnessing of fisheries and potential in the country. And we are looking at modernizing and strengthening of the value chain and doubling fishers and farmers' income, as I mentioned. And it will contribute to the social, physical, and economic security for fishers and fish farmers, along with a very robust fisheries management and regulatory framework. So these are the objectives of the very ambitious Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana, which we are currently implementing. Next, please. So along with, as I mentioned, the whole purpose is to enhance fish production and productivity through expansion, intensification, diversification, and productive utilization of land and water. This is done through various methods. So I'm just listing down a few of these initiatives. In aquaculture, we have fresh, saline, and brackish water, and we are looking at more investments in mariculture for livelihood, sustainable, and responsible fisheries. For that, we are looking at quality brood, seed and feed certification, and ease of doing business in the sector. This is by more value creation, more value addition, value realization, and again, a variety of things that we are doing, particularly focusing on ornamental fisheries, where it's almost a 20 billion global trade. And we are just scratching the surface in India. We think that it contribute 0.7 million jobs by looking at this sector. So basically our aim is to increase both production and productivity. Next slide also gives you some more sectors. We are looking at entrepreneurship models, PPP models, and new types of technology in a large way, the recirculatory aquaculture system, the biofloc. We are looking at traceability and certification in a big way, disease-free zones and aquaculture zonation. And this can be done through large number of fish farmers, producer organizations that we are going to make. And we are already in the process of working on these. We are also looking at, in a big way, more of cage cultivation, both in reservoirs and in the sea. So we are looking at large number of harbor developments through the PPP model also, and branding and advocacy, because domestic consumption also, along with the exports, we also have to look at the increase in domestic consumption. And for that, we are planning more extension services. And seaweed cultivation is another area where we want to take up in a big way, because particularly it helps in women empowerment. So all this will add to what we are planning for. So next slide gives you a little bit on the other scheme that I have, which is the FIDF, the Fisheries and Aquaculture Infrastructure Development Fund. That is for, as I mentioned, looking at gaps in the infrastructure and putting investments there. The fund size is 1 billion. We give 3% interest subvention. We have already approved schemes of US 424 million US dollars, and that is what we are working further. This ongoing scheme, and this is where the private sector can also get funding. The states come up for funding. So this is a very good scheme for enhancing infrastructure in the fisheries sector. Next slide, please. The World Bank Assistance Scheme, as I mentioned, is the one that we are now finalizing. It will be in 2 phases. The first phase will be 300 million US dollars for 4 years each. And under this, we are looking at total investments of a very large sum, almost 2,000 million US dollars. And these are various components of the scheme. So I'll not go into it. This is again, you may wonder that, look, already we have a very major scheme, and then what are we doing in this? So whatever we have looked at in terms of further strengthening areas which we could not cover fully in the Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana, we are taking in the World Bank assisted scheme. Next, please. Now, very quickly, because time is running, so I will quickly skip through some of the slides. Just give you a flavor of the kind of variety of programs that we have. We are looking at species diversification in a big way, both marine fish, whether they are pampano, cobia, grouper, or seaweed, or brackish water, sea bass, shrimps, mud crab. So variety of diversification of species, and this is done with the Indian Council of Agriculture Research, Fisheries Research Institutions. We have MOPEDA, which is our export development agency. We are working with fisheries colleges. So we have a large program and large number of stakeholders. The key is to increase the total fish production, enhance productivity, for which we have investments of almost 300 million US dollars planned. Next, please. Cage cultivation, I was mentioning, is a big area. This is one of the strategies that we are doing. It has investments of 80 million US dollars. And we are looking at 5% area under some major reservoirs to be taken up for putting in cages. And we have a proper leasing policy, and we're working with the states for that. And entrepreneurship models are being worked out and are currently being done to ensure that we have large number of participation in this. Next, please. Similarly, brackish water aquaculture is another area, cold chain and marketing infrastructure development, because our target is to double the exports. So this will also help in a big way. Next, please. Our whole aim is to look at how we can create wealth from wastelands. And wastelands are those lands which have become saline or alkaline. The soils have become infested with salinity or alkalinity, and they are not fit for the normal crop husbandry. So we have identified such areas in some specific states, and we are using technology, convergence with new technology like biofloc and other departments of the government like rural development, agriculture, and we are trying to do this in a big way. This is in itself a huge initiative, and there are a lot of strategies. So this will help the farmers in a big way. Next, please. Cold water fisheries is another area. India being so large, it has mostly tropical areas, but it also has Himalayan regions. And cold water fisheries is another big area that we are looking at. So in that, we are again looking at trout fish hatcheries, and there are a large number of states that we are working. In Arunachal Pradesh, Himachal Pradesh, Jammu and Kashmir, Ladakh, Sikkim, and Uttarakhand. Next, please. Technology infusion is a very major initiative. We want to have more crop per drop. And for that, we have lined up investments of 165 million US dollars. And as I mentioned, new technology. This is where this particular program that we have will be very useful, because we are looking at new types of technology, how technology will increase value enhance the value chain working, and in that, like RAS, biofloc, aquaponics, the integrated multi-tropic aquaculture, pen culture, high density pond aquaculture. Some of the regions in the sector have done well, and we can collaborate to look at more technology infusion, more investments coming in, and that's what we like to do. Next, please. Marine cage culture is another area where we think uh, we can also get some of the capture fisheries sea going fishermen taken, and that will be risk, as a risk resilience strategy, it will be useful, and convergence with other FIDF and all that. So in a big way, we are looking at it, the investments of $85 million US and employment of 0.4 millions. Next. Ornamental fisheries, I mentioned, is a big potential, and we are looking at $77 million US investments. And currently, we have not a big presence, but we have a huge domestic market. So we are trying to promote more of, taking it as a pet and a hobby, keeping fish at home, in schools and colleges, in public places. So this is one area where we are looking at set standards and certification, and taking it further. Next, please. Seaweed cultivation I mentioned already, and this is a big area where we would like to work, and we have targeted because of economic empowerment of coastal women, and the risk is very less, and huge potential exists. So we are looking at this in a big way. Next, please. Integrated aqua parks. The whole idea is to have a cluster-based approach. So we have looked at one-stop integrated park for entire fisheries value chain, and this will help. It's a hub and spoke model that we are looking at, and this we have looked at specific themes. Like there could be a shrimp park in North India, a seaweed park can be in the south, ornamental park can be in the eastern part of India, a marine tuna park or northeast park can be there for northeastern region, tilapia park, a pangasius park. So they can be a multi-purpose park. So like this, we are looking at a strategy of integrated aqua parks. Next, please. Entrepreneurship model is what we are encouraging, because we understand that the participation should not be entirely from the government side alone. It should not be a subsidy-based kind of a program. It should be based on beneficiary participation in a big way. Then only it can be sustainable. And for that, we have found out, we are working out at different models, which is part of the Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana. Next, please. So as I mentioned, the cold chain and retail chain development, especially for urban retail market, for urban fish kiosk, is very important. We wanted, we are working in a big way to make available hygienic fish at affordable rates, uniform prices, and for that aggressive marketing is required to make sure that a healthy and affordable protein is available in terms of more fish. So for that, we are doing a lot of efforts in terms of e-marketing, certification, NFDB, hand labeling. So all this is going in a big way in terms of improving the cold chain and the retail chain. Next, please. Ultimately, just to summarize, we are looking at the entire value chain. In terms of value addition, we wanted to improve products or processes, and value addition is required extra for exports, because currently we are not doing much of value addition in exporting. So there again, we like to work with other countries, with other stakeholders who are part of this webinar also, to how we can improve our value addition system. We need to also reduce quantitative and qualitative losses to increase value realization. At the same time, more value creation through certification, traceability, and blockchain. All these are, to be done through more of investments in infrastructure, more of innovations in startups and incubators. So these are big, as I said, more opportunities are available in India, and this is a good area to work with. Next. So I will quickly not get into a lot of other, for example, we are doing more of fishing harbors, modernization and landing centers to ensure better hygienic handling of fish. This is again a huge investment, almost 8,000 crores, more than $1 billion. And this is converging with Sagarmala, which is with the Ministry of Shipping scheme. So like that, you can see, this is just a flavor of huge investments coming up across all sectors, whether it's in the hardcore infrastructure of fishing harbor or the value chain improvement. Next, please. We are also looking at integrated modern coastal fishing villages. We are calling the blue villages as a part of the FAO Blue Growth Initiative. And it will help in more of tourism improvement, the sport fishing, surfing, a lot of areas, a lot of things. But it will also help vulnerable communities and ecotourism in a sustainable way, disaster resilience, waste disposal. We want to have it zero plastic villages, modern logistics and cold chain, and this will be by integrating all stakeholders and relying on innovative methods and new technology. So the SDG 2030, if you look at it, SDG 14, we're looking at that in a big way, 2 and 14. So this is our way of looking at it. Initially, we'll take up 100 such villages and then further, increase the numbers. So livelihood support is a major way that we look at, and integrated modern coasting villages development will be a strategy in that. Next, please. Fishermen welfare, I was mentioning, livelihood, safety at sea. For that, a lot of efforts are being taken for ensuring that their safety is there with safety kits and equipment. We are having Sagar Mitras in all the 3,477 coastal villages. We are appointing Sagar Mitras who are basically extension workers, and also who will get all the data, will help the people in the villages. Mostly this will empower the rural unemployed youth, and this is where possible good training and capacity building is to be done. This is to be done with other stakeholders in the government. Next, please. Innovation, startup and incubation, as I mentioned, mentoring, and it is a major way that it's very innovative that way we are looking at new areas. So our thrust areas are in terms of innovations. This will help up innovations in malnutrition, for example. India being a developing country, we need to look at large number of people and see that their nutritional requirements are met. And we are looking at fish and aquaculture as a major resource for that. So we have now sea ranching as a river ranching, variety of ways we are looking at it. Next, please. Traceability certification standards from catch to consumer, from from farm to fork. So like that, we are now trying to look at it. So resource convergence with states, private sector. Then we have to look at how we can do international certification, brand development. So all these things are useful for taking it further. I will not, because we are running short of time. So let me just go to the next one. I think we can go fast. Now I'll spend a little time on exports, because this will be an important area. We are having a strategy of doubling exports. This is going to be through a variety of methods, finding new markets, deepening of existing market, collectivization of aqua park clusters. There are issues with non-tariff barriers of phytosanitary measures. So for that, we looking at traceability, certification and standards, increasing our productivity through area expansion and technology infusion. So in a variety of ways, we are looking at it. Next, please. If you look at the numbers, we have grown in the last 10 years in a very impressive way. So currently we are doing $7 billion of exports. And if you see the numbers, and if you look at the share of capture and culture fisheries, so look at culture is in terms of value 55%. That's where aquaculture comes in a big way, and we are relying on aquaculture to improve it further. So our major objective is to double the marine product exports from 7 billion to 15 billion US dollars by 2024 by diversifying the export baskets destination and boosting high value and value added products. And we are looking at an institutional mechanism for pursuing market access, tackling barriers to trade, and dealing with sanitary and phytosanitary issues. So this is where we, again, this is another area of cooperation and collaboration with large number of participants in the webinar that we are having. Next, please. Now, there are a lot of required interventions that we have thought of for doubling of exports of marine products. I will not go into details of that, but attracting private investments in production and processing and a strong quality control regime backed by proper research and development is what we are looking at. And focusing on clusters and infrastructure and logistics support is what we are looking. And with a robust quarantine and laboratory network, we want to incentivize further the export of value-added products. And this is what we are looking at, by traceability and good standards, we'll ensure that the banned antibiotics are not there and these concerns are met. So this is done by zonation of aquaculture areas, and this is what we are basically looking at in a big way. Next, please. Now, I will not go into much detail, but I just wanted to tell you that what a spectacular success story has been cultured shrimp from very humble beginnings of just 75,000 tons in 8-9. Now we are looking at 6.8 lakh tons in 18-19. And this is, this has happened through the single largest commodity is the cultured shrimp. 68%, 69% is accounting for that alone. So this is what we will, this is driving the India's exports, and we wanted to make it grow further. Next, please. This is, this slide just gives you that we are looking at other species diversification other than shrimp in a big way, and looking at in addition to shrimps and prawns, tuna, mackerel, and other crustaceans and molluscs, and new species of sea bass and tilapia also in exports in a big way. And major initiative will be on value addition and also looking at ornamental fish and seaweed trade. Next, please. So I would like to now just say that we are now looking at four focus species of tilapia, pangasius, sea bass, and mud crab. And both short-term and long-term action has been taken by Department of Fisheries and along with MOPEDA. And we are looking at a variety of ways to make it happen. And this is one of the areas that we are giving a lot of attention to. Next, please. So a lot of investments have been tied up by Department of Fisheries, and we expect, because of huge investments coming up through various variety of schemes that I mentioned, and large number of stakeholders who are already tuned in, and through the entrepreneurship models that we have put in, we are incentivizing the farmers for GAP and BAPs, and the looking at aquaculture disease prevention, control and surveillance, proper hygienic handling of fish. And also we are looking at modern deep sea fishing vessels. We are now getting into production of that in a big way, upgradation of fishing vessels for export competitiveness. And this is done through cooperatives and FFPOs. That is where the present seminar for the NEDAC comes in a big way. We are looking at more of cooperatives and FFPOs coming in big way for ensuring that not only our exports grow, our production grow, our productivity grows. And that is where I'm sure that with more technology, more technical input, it will be a win-win situation for all of us. Next, please. So let me thank you, because I have taken a little more time than it was initially hoped for. But because I can see that we are doing a large number of activities across sectors, and I hope it will be useful for you in terms of information. And I'm very sure that such initiatives of these knowledge seminars are the technical webinars are very, very useful for all stakeholders, and we will benefit also a great deal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rajeev, for your informative